What's up, Fit Fam? Coach Rye from Team Flex. Today we are breaking down bikini versus wellness. 2023 Olympia just concluded. We got our updates for criteria as far as things go, and I want to really highlight the differences here of these divisions for all of you out there so you know exactly where you fit, and for all you coaches out there so you know when you get an athlete exactly where they're going to fit based on what division they want to do. Basically, by the end of this video, if you stick with me to the end, it's not going to be a shorty, but it's going to be a lot of value, and you'll know exactly what division you want to go into, how you want to train, everything like that. The criteria across the board is what we're talking. So make sure you subscribe to this channel, please. I do these videos a lot. I do a lot of great content for you, helping you be your best competitor. And unfortunately, you know, the platform here does not enjoy the bikini content, the wellness content, you know, for whatever reason, and they kind of push the videos down so they don't get views and stuff. So anything you can do to subscribe, share, thumbs me up, help me try to beat this algorithm, I really appreciate it. Let's get to the nitty gritty here. So first thing we have to talk about when we're talking about comparing these divisions, bikini and wellness, is we got to talk about the shape. So the shape for these divisions is different, okay? And I know some people with the untrained eye getting into this, you don't know, or maybe some coaches still having a very hard time with wellness coaching. I get like hundreds of messages a day asking for help from coaches. It can look similar, right? But it's not the same. It's definitely not the same. So we'll talk about that. Let's get into it. Shape is the first thing we have to talk about, and here's where it is. So the shape for bikini, right here, we're looking at this hourglass shape. That's what you can hear echoed across the board. You'll hear it from judges. You'll hear it from the criteria. You'll hear it from feedback if you compete and you get it, okay? So the hourglass shape comes from the width of the upper body, the narrowing of the waist, and then basically widening back out the lower body development here. And if we look at this, you'll see this becomes that perfect hourglass, that tapered in width at the shoulders into the waist, coming out at the glutes, going over here into the leg. That's kind of our hourglass look, and I like to draw this line over here, boom, just kind of extend it. There you go, it's perfect hourglass. Symmetry upper to lower, left to right, across the board. That is your hourglass shape. That is what judges want to see. That's what they're looking for across the board, right out the gate. If you don't have this, it's not going to work in your favor. If you're imbalanced, let's say your upper body's too developed. If you've been watching content on this channel, we talk about this stuff, but if your upper body's too developed, it throws your symmetry off. Your lower body's too developed, throws your symmetry off. All that is going to favor you not placing well, right? You're not going to be scoring as well as you could, winning your shows, so on and so forth, if you don't have that shape symmetry perfect. That's really what bikini's all about. Wellness. Now, keep in mind, this is a quarter turn we're looking at, but for sake of comparison, it's nice to look at this for the eye, and for all of you out there, it makes the most sense. Wellness. It has a lot of similarities, okay? Wellness has that width of the upper body. It's got the taper of the midsection. That's all the same. For the most part, wellness is the same upper body-wise, the torso, as bikini. You're still going to get a lot of that. And we'll talk about muscles specifically in a minute. But where wellness becomes its own division is everything below the waist. It's the lower body development. This is where, you know, if we look at this here, we got our taper, we got everything coming in nice and tight there, same as the bikini division. When we look lower body and wellness, it becomes a much more exaggerated hourglass shape, right? It's a dominant hourglass shape, lower body wise. And that's really what makes wellness its own division, is that lower body dominance. And keep in mind, this lower body dominance comes from muscle, and we're going to talk about that as we move forward. So let's move now into the muscle structure. What kind of makes these shapes? Because really, yeah, shape is great, but you can have those shapes for a lot of different reasons. It's not always specifically going to be from the reasons you need, which is muscle development. So let's take a look at bikini here. And wellness is going to be pretty much the same, but bikini will start here. Roundness of the shoulders, fullness to the shoulders. You'll hear this echoed across the board from judges. You'll get this feedback as a new competitor. You'll get this feedback probably a lot of times, depending if your symmetry's off or on, okay? Fullness to the shoulder comes from working all three heads of the delt, the front, the lateral, the rear, and also making sure it just shows accordingly. That's what's creating that width up top. That's what your upper body muscle needs to show in the shoulder development for sure. That's going to create that line right there for you. The waist. There is not a lot of waist work being done in bikini, midsection core, whatever you want to call it. You know, it's not a lot of ab training. Really what the waist becomes in bikini is narrow. And what you want to have here is basically a flat stomach. That's what you'll hear, you know, a lot of the top judges talking about all the time. You hear me talking about on this channel. Flat stomach. This means you're not showing a lot of body fat here. It also means you don't have hard, chiseled in six-pack abs. That will also score you down. That's an indicator of being too lean. In conditioning, we're going to talk about, so stick around. If you're still with me, stick around. We're going to get to that conditioning. What you do see, though, is some soft lines in the oblique and stuff. This comes from dieting, okay? I keep getting this question, right? Like, how are people getting these waists and these abs looking like this, the flat stomach, so on and so forth? It's literally just from dieting. Like, it's from being at the right level of body fat. That's what creates that. This is not a lot of ab training, stuff like that. Most of the time, these competitors are avoiding ab training, right, to make sure they don't actually thicken the waist. They want to keep that tapered look. They're not going to be doing a lot of abs. All right, bikini, lower body. What creates that symmetry upper to lower is the glute shape. So fullness to the glute here, fullness to the quads, so on and so forth. All this here is in good symmetry. We've done criteria videos. I'm not going to go too deep into all that. If you want the full criteria, look back on the channel. We got great videos on the full criteria here, but that's really what's creating this. Glute fullness, glute shape, a little bit of quad, a little bit of hamstring to match, not overdone, okay? Now let's look over at wellness real quick. Upper body's the same, so we got the fullness to the shoulder. We don't need to talk too much more about that. We got the same effect at the waist. Again, not overdone with the ab training, anything like that. And lower body is where we see, boom, there it is. There's the biggest difference we will see across the board. Bikini and wellness is the lower body, and it starts in the glutes. So a lot more glute development, a lot more, you know, kind of 3D effect of the glutes where they're just so dominant. They're pushing out way more than they do in bikini. They're still getting the fullness in bikini, but you're not getting the three-dimensionality, that full development effect. It's a lot more hypertrophy of that muscle group. And also upper glute is something we talk about a lot. You see it a lot more in wellness too, because, you know, upper glute and bikini and wellness is important, but in wellness, we got to show basically a lot more lower body dominance. And same thing will happen with the hamstrings, a lot more there, and a lot more quads. Like in wellness, quad sweep from the back, and we're going to show that in a second. But realistically, what you got to know, if you're out here and you want to do wellness, a lot of women can be lower body dominant from having more body fat lower body. It can happen. See it a lot with people trying to come into the sport, see it with people in the off season, right? And they say, okay, well, I'm obviously wellness then because my lower body's bigger, you know, blah, blah, blah. Well, no, what you got to understand is if your lower body is dominant due to body fat, it is not going to suit you well in wellness, okay? If you get to stage with that level of body fat, you know, your lower body was dominant because you had more body fat, judges are not going to score you well. You're not going to be at the right, you know, conditioning or the criteria, and it's just not going to work in your favor. So really what you got to understand is the lower body dominance in wellness comes from muscle. The conditioning in these divisions is pretty much the same. Like we're on par conditioning wise, showing the same amount of leanness lines, all that. Really what the difference is the muscularity in wellness. So let's look over here now to the back because everything really becomes more obvious in the back pose across the board. And here we are. We see, okay, some of those markers of the shoulders in both of these divisions here. We're seeing the roundness, the fullness, all that. We're still seeing this tapered look we talked about. It's all the same. And remember where our difference is really going to be lower body because that's what the difference between these two divisions is. So bikini, still all about symmetry. Got the fullness to the glute, the slight separation in the ham tie. You know, we got the little bit of quad here, not a lot showing. Hamstrings are in the same par. Upper glute here, everything is there. Fullness to the glute, all that. Got to show those soft lines, that separation. It's all there, but it's all in perfect symmetry to the upper body. It's very symmetrical look, very symmetrical hourglass physique, again, that we talk about. Now, wellness, this is where we get, okay, blatantly, it's lower body dominant hourglass, okay? So we got the hourglass here. There is the dominance, upper body smaller than the lower body in muscularity, thus creates that. And you might look at this and say, okay, well, wellness is clearly leaner. No, it's not. It's actually the same type of conditioning as I've stated. what makes it look leaner in the lower body, and the glutes are like, whoa, this is definitely leaner. There's way more ham tie-in showing. It's because the glutes are so much more muscular, so much more development here in the hamstring, in the glute, in the quad here. You're seeing the quad sweep from the back post. That's a lot of muscular density in the legs. And see, not a lot of body fat. So like I just said, if you're dominant lower body because of body fat, it's not going to suit you well on stage in wellness. Okay, so that's really our biggest differences. And I mean, it's blatant when you look at this side by side. The wellness winner from Olympia and then the bikini winner from Olympia. I mean, across the board, two totally different physiques, two totally different criterias. And it's looking more clear now than it has in a while, I think. Like pretty much ever since the division has started with wellness, we're seeing a much better criteria across the board, delineation-wise, okay? If you're still stuck and you don't understand this and you're watching this, you're like, okay, I get it, but it's still hard. What do I do? Take my division quiz, by the way. I have a free division quiz. We'll drop the link down here in the bottom in the description to take the division quiz, and basically this is going to tell you what division you belong in based on a lot of criteria that I go through with clients when I take them in, whatever, try to figure out where they want to be, what they want to do, because a lot more comes into it than just the look you want, right? Trying to figure out your division, there's a bunch of stuff, but the quiz is perfect. It's free, nothing you need to do, nothing's going to happen to you. If you do it, you're just going to get the answers that you need and know where to go. You know, okay, should you be training for bikini, wellness, figure, anything like that? That's in that quiz. So definitely make sure you hit that link and do that. Now, I do want to move a little bit further here and just show you the second place winners, okay? So we got Maureen and we got Issa here, okay? So these are two more examples. And I want to show this because, you know, we look at Francielle and we look at Jen, and then, you know, we can look at that all the time and be like, okay, well, that's just two totally different people. Well, here it is, again, the same criteria being exemplified. So here we go. Maureen, you know, got the shoulders, got everything, got the tapered look that we talked about, all that coming together, very symmetrical lower body. She's taking second, former Olympia champion. It's all there. That's the hourglass, okay? We look over at Issa, same things. We got the fullness to the shoulders, taper into the waist. Okay, cool. But the lower body dominance, I mean, just look at this, ladies and gents, whoever's watching, thanks for watching. Like, we got a lot more glutes in wellness. We got a lot more hamstrings in wellness. We got a lot more quads. And if you want that lower body dominant look with muscle, like you want your legs to just be freaking jacked, and a lot of women do like this look, I mean, that's the place to go. Bikini, you still got to have a lot of muscle. Don't get me wrong, but it's to a lesser degree than wellness. So if you're like, leg day's my jam, I love leg day, I want to be in the gym for an hour and a half, 2 hours doing legs, I love that stuff. I mean, I can't do legs enough. Maybe think about wellness, you know? And bikini, if you love that symmetrical look, you love that shape up and down, you want that across the board, that perfect symmetry, that's where you want to be, okay? Let's look at the back post here. And again, blatant differences. And Maureen actually, honestly, too, if you guys watched my Olympia recap video, I think she pushed her muscularity a bit, a little bit too dominant in the shoulders, a little bit maybe too dominant going into the glutes too. But even here in this, right, where she was kind of overdone in bikini, in my opinion, that's how she got to second. I think she could even have been a little bit lower, to be honest. You know, looking next to Issa, no chance. I mean, it doesn't even look similar, okay? So it's definitely a lot more glutes, a lot more hamstring, a lot more quad sweep, a lot. That's what you got to know is the big difference between these two divisions. They're not similar. They are not the same. I mean, I hear and I see comments and people asking me, and coaches, I get coaches messaging me all the time. Yeah, it's pretty much the same as bikini, right? I can just train a wellness competitor, same as a bikini competitor. The answer is no. Okay, you definitely can't be doing that. They train totally differently. One, you're training for total symmetry. One, you're training for total asymmetry. So it's a big difference across the board where you want to train, how you want to be training, and what you want to do. And last thing we got to talk about is just conditioning. So conditioning is the same, very on par in both these divisions, okay? So for those of you out there that think wellness is leaner and you have to diet harder to be there, it's not true. These athletes look a little bit leaner, like you look at Issa, right? And she's got the glute cut here, she's got quad cut here, she's got, you know, separations, little ab lines. You look at Maureen, it's a little bit of that, maybe a little soft line, a little oblique there, not as much glute and the, you know, quad and all that. The reason it looks leaner on a wellness athlete is just because they have more muscle. So if you imagine you have the same level of body fat across the board in both athletes, but you have more muscle on one athlete, that muscle pushes into the skin more. So that makes it look tighter. That makes that person look leaner, and you're going to see more of their muscle because basically the muscle's bigger. So that's what really is happening in wellness and bikini. Same conditioning. So you don't have to get any leaner. If you're a bikini competitor and want to move to wellness, you don't have to get any leaner than you ever did to compete in bikini. You just need to be able to build more muscle basically in the lower body. I mean, for the most part, a lot of people look at these and they think they're very similar. They're the same division. You know, they're not. They're two totally different divisions. They're very different to train for. They're very different to prep for. There's a million things that I could talk about that I'm going to go, you know, way too far into and make this a 7-hour video. But for the sake of what we're talking about today and the criteria differences, hopefully that is blatantly obvious to you now, okay? And if you haven't done the quiz and this doesn't make sense and you're like, okay, I still don't really know where I belong, go do my quiz. It's a killer quiz. It's awesome. We've had like thousands of people go through this. And I've heard from people that message me months later and they're like, wow, I decided to make the choice to go to wellness after doing your quiz and I won my show, got the overall. It was amazing, you know? I'm telling you guys, like, this quiz is free. It's awesome. It gives you everything you need to know to pick the right division for you. And we give you training tips and everything like that too after that. So check it out. Do that quiz. It's free. No reason not to do it. You're crazy if you don't. If you watched it this long and you haven't done that yet, you're damn insane. And remember, if you guys can help me, hit me a thumbs up. Give me a comment. Do you like this type of content? What more do you want to see? I got a ton of videos coming. We're going to keep pumping, but I want to make sure you guys are loving everything we're doing here. So thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Coach Rye. That's it. That's it for me. I'm out.